Us now from Barcelona are Rachel's partner, Andre, and her son, Alex. And in the studio, we have Dale Babu, former Chief Superintendent in the Metropolitan Police. Good morning to all of you. Thanks for joining us this morning. Andre, let's come over to you first of all, because, you know, I mean, listening to that report, it's just awful hearing those details again. I think it's one of those cases that's imprinted in everybody's mind that was there at the time, and even those people who weren't have heard about it subsequently. Obviously, for you as a family, such a horrific thing to go through. Why is it 30 years on, you are now thinking that actually this landmark legal action would be the way forward?
Well, I think 30 years is a long time. And there have been certain key points along the journey that make certain actions easier than others. And it seems at this particular moment in time, with the appointment of a man at the Met, that there may be an opportunity here to move something forward.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, it just, when we look at the details, you know, obviously you were there as such a young child and have some memories of what happened, which just must have been an awful thing to have had to go through, unimaginable. And then to look at what happened subsequently and to realise that there were missed opportunities, mistakes were made, that must have made it even harder.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so for you, is that a big part of why you want to campaign, you want to have this legal action to finally get more justice?
Well, we believe if something is wrong, if something is unjust, and you have the opportunity to do something about it, we feel that's the right thing to do.
Alex, do you feel like you want to point fingers of blame at anybody? Are you angry about any of this? I mean, this has been, 30 years on, and you're still, I feel, trying to find some comfort that you can move on. Who do you blame for your sort of predicament, your situation right now, when with all what's been going on over the 30 years?
Well, for us, it's not so much about blame as it is about responsibility. And obviously the police aren't responsible for the actual murder, so to speak. But if there's evidence there and the police, so-called, their duty is to serve and protect, and they fail to do that, we believe that they should be held accountable just like we're held accountable.
Let's bring in Dale Babu here as the former Chief Superintendent in the Met Police. I mean, this is really quite a horrific story. We're dealing with people's lives. There are families that are affected. We can see that with Andre and Alex. I said blame, and it is blame. Of course, it's accountability and responsibility, but someone has to take the blame for this, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, there are no redeeming features about this case. It was a shocking level of incompetence by the police at the time. They'd arrested the wrong individual. That individual was part of a honey trap. The policewoman who was involved in that honey trap has never been identified, won £125,000 damages. Colin Stagg was awarded £700,000 damages. The family, and it's heart-wrenching hearing the stories from somebody who was there when the attack happened and the father. But there's also the attitude of the Met. This was 1 year before the Stephen Lawrence murder. And the attitudes of police officers towards white women who were in relationships with black and Asian people was incredibly poor. And I remember my own experience of being a young PC, night duty, going out with a white policewoman. We saw a couple arguing, a black man and a white woman arguing. They'd been drinking. First of all, she didn't want to stop. And then when I managed to get her to stop, I went out, spoke to the individuals, they got into a cab and went off, and I got into the cab, and there's one remark that still sits with me, and it's almost 40 years ago, and she says, "What do you expect if you go out with one of those?" And that was a kind of racist, bigoted attitude.
Just want to clarify that point. So the insinuation is that there was a feeling at that time that interracial couples didn't deserve the same justice as everybody else. I mean, that is remarkable. Do you think that was a thought process, part of the culture at the time in the police force?
Well, that was my experience. And I think if you look at the experiences of women who were in relationships, interracial relationships, that was the kind of issues that were coming up. So I think we can't dismiss that kind of attitude. And the whole police operation was an absolute joke. It was shockingly incompetent. Yeah.
Because Robert Napper, his own mother, didn't he? His own mother contacted the police and
to tip them off.
To tip them off and said,
yeah.
He's told me, and this is blunt language. He's told me that he raped somebody on the back of Plumstead Common, and they didn't act upon it. Although there was an incident that they could, if they looked in their records and files, they would have found an incident that could have been, which was connected to, and was that incident that she referred to. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, his own mother, 1989, so this is 3 years before the attack, 1 year before Stephen Lawrence murder, and that information wasn't followed up. So when you look at the level, what the police were doing, they became tunnel-visioned with Colin Stagg. That's all that mattered. They had this honey trap. They didn't look at the other suspects.
Okay,
well, you're saying so you're saying the motivation behind that is not necessarily incompetency. It's like, well, we've just got to find somebody. We're not really invested in trying to find the right justice because of their sort of prejudice thoughts. And the idea was, oh, we've got him. We'll just nail him. It's case over. We'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't give the care to this investigation that it needed.
Let's go back now to Andre and to Alex. And I mean, Andre, for you, we know that the Metropolitan Police have issued an unreserved apology. For you, though, we've heard from Dal Babu about the shocking level of incompetence. I imagine that, an apology just isn't enough when you hear about what has gone on and what happened and what mistakes were made.
Well, I think for us, the issues that are important is that from the day that this happened, we were told that this person was going to strike again. So our main concern was that this didn't happen to another family, which put huge pressure on Alex as a small child, 3 weeks before his 3rd birthday, to provide evidence to help the police to track this killer down. And for many years afterwards, the Met made it very clear that even after the case against Colin Stagg had fallen apart and that he was found innocent, that they considered him to be guilty, and they weren't looking for anybody else.
And do you think that racism was an issue? We've just been hearing there about perhaps police attitudes towards interracial relationships.
Well, I'll take over that point if you don't mind. This has been accepted by the ruling body of the police, the IPCC, that they were responsible and that these mistakes were made. So you tell me what you think it is.
As to the reason why that happened? Well, listen, we're so sorry
for
for everything.
Reason that it hasn't been put, as for the reason that it hasn't been put right.
So in your mind, it's clear that was a factor?
Well, it seems to be.
Well, I think it's very clear and evident
for us. For us, the main point to make is that the system didn't work. The institution failed to function, and the person who should have been stopped in 1989 went on to commit even more horrendous attacks. And even though on a personal level, all the officers that we came into contact with, we could see that they were trying to do the best that they possibly could. From an institutional level, from a management level, it was a disaster.
Andre and Alex, I'd like to thank you both. I know how difficult this can be for you to come on to national television and talk about this. And we wish you well, and we know that you are considering legal action, and whatever you decide, we wish you well in your endeavours. And thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for that.
No, thank you.
Really
and thank you, former Metropolitan Police Chief Superintendent Dal Babu. Thank you.
We do have to say that a spokesperson for the Met Police told us the Met have apologised unreservedly for the failings in the investigation into Rachel Nickell's death. They say they accept more could have been done to have prevented a number of very serious attacks carried out by Robert Napper. Since the murder of Rachel Nickell, the Metropolitan Police Service has significantly changed how it investigates murders. That includes the development and professionalism of police training, new forensics techniques, close liaison with the Crown Prosecution Service.
The Met has also said that it is more diverse than it has ever been and is proud to employ more than half of all police officers in England and Wales from underrepresented groups.